game. He really didn't have any kind of impact on it, other than catching Malwath and his jungler a couple of times. But that's not so much the champion as it is for bad warding on, on Trickter's part.
Now, one thing we didn't really talk about too much in the first game is a lot of bans all got locked in very quickly there as we connected into the game. 4 mid lane bans so far.
Near identical bans.
Pretty much only the Maokai is different, and we talked about it. Will and Faculty either first pick or ban out the Maokai? So they had the option for it, but they're not opting for it. So this gives Xaxus perhaps his time to either lock in Aurelia, which would be the next strongest top lane pick, or look for an unorthodox lane where he doesn't have to face this Maokai.
And this is the ban that was opened up. Corki is now here because he was banned in the previous game. Yeah. Corki, Lucian are the 2 AD carries that are highly contested at the moment, even with the Faculty guys, the Tricked guys grabbing that Caitlyn before, trying something a little bit different. But now in Faculty have that opportunity to grab Corki.
And this is a very familiar sight of Corki in that first pick slot. If you've been watching any of OGN's their seeding for next spring champions, basically everybody in the Xenix, IM lineups all locking Corki in first because it sets up this amazing mid-game siege composition should you choose to go for it. But in general, it's just a very solid pick right now in that AD carry position.
Yeah, he's great in the lane as well as just in the sieges and the wave clear and everything else he goes with. But it leaves Tricked up now with that 2 slot. A lot of people love having those 2 picks to start out this comp. You mentioned now how with Maokai gone, Aurelia is a highly contested top pick. We saw a very, very strong Orianna from Tyrannus last time around. It could grab themselves that again. But it looks like even with no contest on AD carries, even with a complete free range to pick from, they're still very happy with the way Caitlyn worked out for him, so they're toying with it.
Yeah, obviously it's a comfortable pick for Shiner here. Caitlyn isn't the typical pick we've seen into Corki, but it worked against Lucian in the last game. Corki is similarly ranged to Lucian, so Caitlyn does still have that advantage, especially pre-sex. Once Corki gets the missile barrage, it's going to be a little bit better against Caitlyn, but should still follow the same sort of pattern.
So they immediately lock in the Jarvan to go with it too, which is what we saw first picked in the last game, with him being one of the few junglers left in contention, being so strong at all stages of the game at various different roles and bringing so much utility to a team. Doesn't surprise too many people, but Faculty's immediate response, while they haven't locked them yet, is to take away 2 of the big parts of that teamfight composition from the last game, making sure Tricked don't get the same picks again, hovering on Orianna and Soda. That combination of Crescendo, Cataclysm, and Shockwave is so incredibly devastating, and they do lock it in.
They do, and this is, again, it goes along with Corki, mid-game here. We're looking at team fights in the mid-game. Corki is going to be able to set them up for siege very well, and once they're in that siege situation, Orianna in the mid-game is a great champion for any kind of engages that follow on from that. What does that leave Trick, though, in this situation? We don't see a lot of Janna into Sona just because of the way the sustain matchups kind of end up going. Sona typically comes out ahead here. Nami could be an option.
Seems to be a common one.
Yeah, although with Caitlyn, I'm looking at champions that synergize with that slightly longer range. There we go.
Nami does perfectly.
Exactly. That was going to be my top pick.
And we get Tyrannus, of course, reversing the matchup from the previous game. His time to play with that Ahri. Let's see if he can do it any differently to the way Source Perfect did and have a bit more of an impact in that early game with perhaps Roams.
Yeah, it's pretty much a skill matchup in the Ori-Ahri matchup because every time you have an Orianna, she just sits so far back, farms rates. There's not a lot you can do against an Orianna. So it's down to Tyrannus to get around the map and have an impact here in this game. But Faculty still looking for their top laner on Xaxus. He has the first pick, and I have to feel he's a little uncomfortable here.
He's decided.
Yeah, there we go.
Done it.
I think he was waiting to see whether they picked Aurelia, maybe to have some kind of counter to it. There aren't any that really we're aware of. Maokai does okay. Gnar is the only other one, but now Tricked are in a really odd situation. Lissandra and Victor both pretty much get crushed by Aurelia just because of how difficult she is to deal with in the laning phase and later into the game. This is the only other pick that can kind of do well, and we've seen it a little bit in Challenger, and I believe, no, that was Challenger games that I was watching as well in Europe. So I've seen this a lot in Challenger 5s as the ladder was going forward to the lock. So Malphite does okay in the lane. Great engage potential, my goodness.
Especially to get onto an Orianna who, as you mentioned, loves to sit so far back.
And that's the one thing that a siege composition like a Corki, Kha'Zix as well, Orianna goes in with that. That's the one thing that's going to undo them, is hard engage. And the hardest engage potentially in the game is that unstoppable force from Malphite.
Yeah, and I also want to talk a little bit about Kha'Zix, because Worlds, he was a big factor and a very common pick. We're on the same patch, but a lot of people in the last couple of months since Worlds, last couple of weeks, have been focusing more on the Jarvans, Rengars, and Lee Sins. Kha'Zix just kind of stopped getting played from a lot of players, and I never really got a solid answer from someone as to why. But, in faculty, this time around, feeling it's their best option.
Kha'Zix is a very aggressive jungler right now, and has been for a while. We're on 4.19, so it's been a bit of a while on patches since Worlds, but it's still Kha'Zix very strong in the early game, very strong in the mid game as well. Once you're past 6, your gank potential is pretty good as well. You've either got the resets on the leap or the added void spikes to make sure
wave clear to help out with.
Yeah,
to be honest, what they've already got a lot of, with Orianna and Corki in there, so they shouldn't necessarily need the Void Spikes at an early stage, but the resets could really help them out, especially when it comes to counter-ganking, which is what Kha'Zix love to do, and when you've got the potential of an Ari roam, having him there could really swing things. Yeah,
indeed, but I really am liking Tricked's lineup here. I'm liking their hard engage. It's been a while since we've seen Malphite in proper competitive play, but he's always unpredictable.
Yeah, but of course, I want to know what you guys like. Which of these comps do you prefer? Which of the ones do you think is going to take this squad? Which of these teams do you want to see in the LCS? Hashtag LCS expansion will, of course, get all those messages straight to us, or you can have a direct chat at LOL eSports. Let us know what you think of the whole tournament. Let us know what you think about anything you could possibly dream of when it comes to these games, the LCS, League of Legends, and competitive scene. But we are in and onto the Rift. And faculty now, of course, are your blue squad down in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, and Tricked eSports up in the top right-hand as the red team. Switching everything around. But again, level 1, I don't think that's going to change too much. Just going to sit back and dance with each other and drop a couple of wards in the river.
So Malphite has a surprisingly decent level 1 if you've taken Ground Slam, which, I mean, it is an option. It's something that all the way back in 2013, I was talking through with some of the North American teams, and they were saying, you can flash Ground Slam and it works really well. Doesn't really. All you get is the attack speed debuff, which at level 1 is fairly
level
important.
1, all the damage are auto attacks, so you slow it that badly.
It is very good, but with Tricked's current setup, not going to be a factor, because in a 1v1, that is not what you want to happen here. So just funny little anecdote that teams do go along with those. Oh, maybe if we did that in a level 1.
Oh, yes. LCS players have silly ideas too, people. Don't forget that one.
But not in a game where you're looking to get into LCS, but that's an important factor. A nice early ward there. Not only did they spot out Maweth, now Maweth has to kind of decide whether he wants to be red here, or to get red here, regardless of whether he starts red or blue. They're going to know exactly where he is.
Yeah, it's given so much information on exactly what Jarvan wants to do, and we've all seen how devastating his level 3 ganks can be with that double buff, and the burst damage he gets from landing his combo and his passive, that martial cadence, does huge amounts in these early levels. But now they're going to know exactly where he's going to be at about that 3-minute level 3 mark, and their lanes can play accordingly.
And you can see their lanes are already playing accordingly. Look at Tricked forcing themselves into this push. Ebb and Flow will deal a little bit of damage with Mountain taking his Q. It's an early win.
Little bit.
Tiny little win, because remember, Sona has some of the lowest base health in the game. She used to have more, and a long, long time ago got that adjusted away.
So a lot of damage.
And this is going to go a long way to helping them get that level 2 early.
So Malphite actually being a little bit later to the top lane too, missing 1 creep, I believe it was. He may have got the experience but missed the gold, but it's not going to be too huge of a deal as he is still such an immovable force. But, as you mentioned, that bottom lane is, of course, still where the contest is in these early levels. But this time around, it's far more even than it was before, with all 6 creeps of both sides dying at very similar times.
And I don't think Tricked are going to be able to stamp their authority quite as much as they did in the last game. Last game was support against, was sustain against no sustain. This one, however, both supports have a heal in their kit. It's a very much more passive matchup until you start hitting that kind of level 6 point, unless there's a big level disparity that opens up.
Yeah, we do see this trades coming back and forth again, but you mentioned, while this sustain versus sustain, Nami's using a lot of her sustain right now as harass. Yeah. It's healing herself just to make it bounce. It's not really hitting Caitlyn quite so much all the time. So we'll see what kind of harass and faculty can land, because their sustain definitely hits both every time.
Good positioning here, though, out by Maweth. Knew that that bottom lane could be warded, and this is a very nice setup here. They had the read from that early ward, but Faculty may be baited into a safer, more aggressive position here, because here comes Maweth into the lane.
Mountain's very forward. The knockup doesn't land because of a flash, but the red buff will, and Jarvan gets first blood. Now they're looking to slow on to Corki. They can't grab him, but it's a kill to a Tricked.
Really well worked there. That's Maweth, knowing that the ward being down in his jungle would give them the read, and Faculty would likely ward out early. Really, really smart out of Maweth. Better start for him this game.
It's a route we've seen a couple of times from Jarvans on both sides of the map, using that Dragon or Baron Pit to get in behind those wards, and well played by the Tricked guys, communicating, letting them know where Sonar placed that ward. It was only in that edge of the river bush he could get into that pit safely.
So, looking up at that top lane, what makes Malphite a decent pick against Xaxus? You can see the shield that Babunia gets in lane. When he doesn't take damage for a while, he gets that part of his health shield that Babunia is going to be able to stand in the lane for. Xaxus can't really trade so much with him like an Irelia would do against a Maokai, which is a bit more of a passive lane. But Xaxus just has to wait this out and avoid the full-on engage later in the game, and Irelia will scale naturally to be able to compete against Malphite.
Obviously, of course, a lot of that damage is there in that dash ability in these early levels, so Babunia is down to about that half point, but will sustain it back up using that Crystalline Flask. Now we see Maweth looking to make another little appearance in this game. Hiding just around the corner for a while. Changed his mind now, and he went back to Wraiths and then Recall, but he was looking to potentially come over the wall to Orianna, but as you mentioned before, she plays so safe and back and deep in those lanes that it's an incredibly hard gank to pull off as a Jarvan, even with such a huge gap closer.
Yeah, I mean, you may get a flash early on if Irelia is playing aggressive, which now SozPerfect is, but the timing is right for SozPerfect to do this. They knew that roughly around the 5-minute mark is going to be that first back timer for the junglers if they've made one gank on the map already. So SozPerfect is playing this very well. He also knows that he can... I thought he was going to go and farm Wraiths. I was going to say it's a little bit early, but it is an option for him should he choose to do it. We saw it a lot last game, but top lane, again, they trade blows, and Babunia is running out of mana, and that is a lot of Malphite's presence here, but may be helped by the jungle presence. Counter gank potentially here from...
Kha'Zix goes out, he's got that red buff, but here's Jarvan, gets the knock up onto 2, but Babunia's incredibly low. Kha'Zix flashes to pick up the kill, but Xaxus is on the run from Maweth, and Maweth may have bitten off more than he can chew now. Both members of Faculty are still here, leaving it to the red buff and to Obvious to make sure Xaxus stays alive. Maweth does knock up back the other way. Xaxus doesn't want to go in, he does still have flash. Obvious is going to try and chase it, leaps forward, but the quick flash from Maweth, the last bit of rockets, not enough.
Yeah, under 30 health in that engagement. Mid!
Oh, it was a kill mid at that point, but that was incredibly close one too. SozPerfect on less than 100 health before that potion ticked up, and no mana left.
The 1 versus 1, the only real difference there was Tyrannus didn't flash but died. SozPerfect flashed and got the kill, so I would say worth on that one.
And without Tyrannus flashing, that means he didn't dodge the shockwave.
Yeah.
And well, he might have used a charge of his ultimate to do it, but maybe, I'm going to guess he didn't, being the fact that he died. If he dodged that ultimate, he would probably not have died. So maybe that flash would have saved his life.
And we talked about it being a skill matchup. 44 CS to 39 isn't the biggest difference, but that kill is going to make quite a large difference between these two. Ahri has a far more expensive first item to pick up in the Deathfire Grasp, and you can see a needlessly large rod is where so much of her damage is going to come from that item. So if Orianna can get to Athene's Unholy Grail a fair amount quicker, Tyrannus is going to have a problem in this lane because Orianna can start becoming a little bit more aggressive in that matchup.
So both junglers were spotted in wards. Kha'Zix has gone deep into the Tricked jungle, but they know about it. They've pinged onto where he's likely going to be, and now they've warned their bottom lane too. So Obvious just planting the wards this time around, then happy to turn and leave. But there is now deep vision in that bottom half of the Faculty jungle, and because of that ward right at the start of the map, they know the timing on that blue buff. They know Maweth started red, and with wards like that, they could look to contest this.
Ooh, Tyrannus smells that something's up though. They spotted Obvious on the ward in the bush, but that's going to give the game away. They not going to engage from that. This is a very patient start out to this game, all about the warding once again, and that really is good to see here from our teams, and Tricked are doing a great job with their warding early on.
So Jarvan did kill off the pink ward while they chased Kha'Zix away, and he's killed off the other ward that was placed now too using his sweeper. But we do see slight changes now in this top lane build from what we're used to. As in fact, Azazus is getting very aggressive onto Babunia, but he doesn't have a blade search. Achieve the case. Babunia, unstoppable force back in, goes to slam the ground onto Azazus, but has no more mana to keep the chase up. He's willing to just burn ultimates like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that he forced the Transcendent Blades out from Irelia and then didn't really end up losing too much from it. But Babunia's low on mana. He has a Giant's Belt, though. That's what we were looking to, you know, focus on. And you'd think that would make him a lot more difficult to kill here, especially once that shield becomes active once again on Babunia's passive. So Xaxus could be in a bit of trouble here in this top lane if he can't heal up safely under the turret.
And using that mana to CS under tower like that too is not going to help him trade. So he is definitely planning to base. He does start the recall now. We're going to focus on mid lane because there's a lot of pings going down onto Kha'Zix right now. Tricked know where he is and are looking to kill some pink wards off. They don't. There we go. Trick managed it, but the charm won't quite hit obvious. Tyradus did manage to get there before Orianna, so that could have been disastrous if Faculty had caught that heart.
Now, what that allowed Trick to do is put China down in this bottom lane to basically farm the wave on his own. And it's something that Caitlyn is somewhat safe to do. Yes, you have the extra range. You also have the 90 caliber net to allow you to get out of situations. But if you're forcing Corki into a matchup where it's basically a farm fest, Caitlyn towards the later game once again is going to scale better. Yes, Corki has that mid-game spike once you get the Trinity Force, once you have the Sorcerer's Shoes, but later and later into the game, Caitlyn is going to become far stronger once that Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer, and the Last Whisper have been completed. So they can't really allow China to farm in a solo lane all that much.
Yeah. Noeth looking for a recall again. Let's see where his items end up. Finishes the Elder Lizard. Doesn't quite get boots yet, though, which is going to leave him a little bit slow around the map. But when his counterpart Kha'Zix has done the same thing, it's not going to be too much of an issue if neither of them have that mobility boost. Bottom lane, we do have a pickaxe and a Vamp Scepter up on Shiner to that single phage up onto Corki. So while it's the beginnings of his Trinity Force, the lane sustain now is a little bit more Shiner's way.
Yes, indeed. That's going to make it pretty easy for Shiner just to sit here. And, nothing really is going to deter them without big jungle pressure here, which is an option. We do have Dragon spawning, but look at them falling back in the lane. Look at them setting up the gank path here for Maweth. It has been warded out, which they do now know, but can Maweth just replicate the same kind of path that he did earlier on in this game?
No, because there is still a ward in the Tribush as well.
That was going to be my next point. But I thought for a second there, Obvious was going to trade a little bit heavier, but Ultimate's once again available. Babunia has Unstoppable Force.
But he's got more items this time around too, so Xaxus does just stroll on away. Still very, very low, but he's also got a lot more mana this time around too, and charges on his flask since that base. So he's going to sustain it all back up slowly but surely. But there is now a chain vest onto Babunia as well. And every time Irelia goes in, she's doing less damage than before. Now, there's no wards in that Tribush because of a pink placed earlier on by Babunia, and Maweth knows it. Maweth is going to try and make use of it. Can he get into that bush without being spotted? Gets into one, looking to come into the next one. As Shiner actually falls bottom lane. There's that jungle presence we talked about. Snuck his way in through the lane, and thanks to the Crescendo and Kha'Zix combo, they open themselves up at the first dragon.
Yeah, now what that's going to do is pretty much give Faculty a very easy dragon. They've kind of lucked out of the fact that Jarvan was top.
Going on to Irelia, they do manage to pick her up with a max range flag drag Cataclysm combo, and this is Trick saying, fine, you've lost the dragon, but we're going to make the most of this top lane. We will take it out.
They will, and Babunia can now look to roam once this tower has fallen, and there is nothing really more scary than a teleporting Unstoppable Force in Malphite at that point in the game. So these team fights, once Tricked can look to group, should go a lot better for them, and that's a very confident play. Babunia just recalling right in front of that turret. That's,
well, he's got to stay and make sure the minions kill
it. Of course, but what I mean is just basically standing there and saying, yeah, I'm going back.
Actually, no, it's exactly what it is. He's being very confident. He wanted to stay to get the extra gold, because of course the boost, and just taunting his opponents with the recall. Just Just a little bit of a tease. So you can't stop this. But he has pushed up towards the tier 2, and that's opened up a possible roam from Orianna and Kha'Zix because he has no mana, has no unstoppable force. He's got his flash, but he's on full tilt to turn and run. Flashes into the river. Kha'Zix was not close enough, though. He's still looking for a possible opening. No, Babinya's long turn around. Kha'Zix is now pinging in towards the enemy Wraith camp, and he's got Orianna in support as they're watching Tyrannus kill off this ward. Charm does hit obvious, but yes, he is 2v1, so he can't defend the ward, and just ends up pulling the Wraith camp.
Overconfidence kind of punishes Babunia there. Just a little bit cockiness. And he stayed to push the wave. That was the curious thing about that, is he
did not need to burn the flash at all.
Yeah, exactly. He could have, even if he wanted to stand in front of the turret as it died and recall, could have done that. That would be fine. But running up to the next wave, ground slamming to use, flash out.
Flashes from the charm, but it might not be enough anyway. Tyrannus is going to keep going. The ignite is ticking. Has to flash for the last auto attack.
Man,
but the heals coming out from Corki saved Sona's life, and Tyrannus blew so much.
Tyrannus, I don't know why you'd flash forward there to try and auto with Ari as Sona turns around the corner. You've been playing on 4.19 and on this map for so long, you know that's a corner that you drop vision on.
Same time though, they blew the flash and the heal from Corki and the flash from Sona. So it's not a complete loss, but TP's coming in. Unstoppable force onto Orianna, but now Ari's got nothing to follow it up with, and the charm doesn't land, so Maweth just comes in, and all he can do is watch.
Normally you'd see the Malphite with the Orianna. It's very kind of disjointing to see it the opposite side. Shockwave, sorry, is still available in this situation, but not quite in range for it. And that is a teleport used here from Babunia, but didn't really have the effect that they were looking for. Did they get any summoners from that during that little engage?
From the TP, no, they didn't burn any summoners at all. They didn't even burn ultimates from the faculty. Well, they burnt Irelia ultimate, but that doesn't really count in the grand scheme of things, as they don't on such a short cooldown. They will also lose this turret because they can't defend wave after wave. While they've got an Ari there, she's not got the greatest of wave clear at this point, up against those 4 members, or 3 as it was now, of the faculty push. So they do have to sacrifice that out to tier 1 turret, but as doing so, they're rotating around through behind the bot lane turret. Kha'Zix comes over by the Wraith. Nami's the focus. She will get the knock up onto Sona, but it's not enough for Caitlyn to pick up the kill. Orianna finishes it off, and it's 2 easy pickups and a tower for N faculty.
That's the kind of situation where Caitlyn just is not as useful in as other AD carries. Her escape is fairly unreliable from the 90 caliber net, so really had nowhere to go and can't really output enough damage in that situation. And faculty are going to take down 2 turrets here, pretty much just from a well-timed roam.
We did see Maweth and Ari trying to push the mid-tier 1 turret in response, but they had a teleport coming down from Xaxus to try and stop them, and it did it so successfully. So not only do faculty get 2 turrets in the bottom lane, they successfully defend their middle turret, and so far they are playing a far better early game in reactively than they were before. And Tricked, trying to get the openings they had, every time just backfires for them.
Yeah, it really just is not going Tricked's way right now. Take a look at the gold difference between the two. We are about 2 minutes away from the dragon spawning, but currently is 3,000 gold difference. Babunia is looking to push this top wave, and yeah, now Xaxus is going to head there to head him off. But this is a period of the game where, again, we drop into the vision control and how necessary it is going into this dragon play. Dragon Ward is going to die for N faculty, so they need to establish a little bit more control actually at the pit, but having the entrances from both the top side and the bottom controlled should just about be enough to spot out whether Tricked are actually heading for it.
So Babunia was wandering around the enemy jungle at that point. He actually walked straight into Orianna, who had Irelia approaching for support, but managed to turn tail and run without blowing anything too important. His flash is almost back up from where he wasted that earlier on, and his ultimate is definitely back off cooldown from that last fight. Teleport is just over a minute out. With a minute on Dragon, it's going to be a very, very tight turnaround to see if he can use that for the fight. But one thing's for sure, Xaxus won't be off cooldown for the next fight. So depending on how these trades go, so whether or not Xaxus can cancel that TP from Babunia, Babunia almost wants to slightly lose one of the trades and back out, make sure there's no stun on Xaxus.
Yeah, I was going to say, that means Babunia can't really sit around in this top lane and actually drop in health, because it's one of those weird mechanics where you win the trade, you lose the actual teleport timing. So it's a balancing act here.
You see, And Faculty here looking to try and grab not only a pick for the Dragon, but some vision control too. They're planting things in and over wards. Nico, though, however, walks straight into the bush, or the ambush, sorry, as Obvious has to flash to get onto him, but he's been exhausted to save Nico a little bit. He's got the move speed boost, but the slow is there. Kha'Zix will pick up the kill, but now he's deep in enemy territory. Shiner has come close, but doesn't have much damage yet. Obviously, he's going to try and focus him down. Might just be able to grab this kill before he falls. Has to blow the summoner spell on Shiner for heal, but now she has so low health. This next fight could be hard for her.
Shiner was in two minds there. The first mind was put out as much damage as I can on this Kha'Zix. The second was don't be isolated, because he was nearly far enough away from the minions that would have been extra damage for Obvious. So had to balance that carefully, but Obvious diving far too deep. The smite is now not available for this Dragon, and it looks like they are going to contest. Shiner is not anywhere near to defend this.
Numbers advantage for Trick. Shiner doesn't want to be here. Cyrodius is taking a lot of damage. Maweth has to back away. Unstoppable Force hits 3 people, but there's no follow-up because the rest of Trick are being zoned all by Corki. Fnatic and Faculty turn to try and focus down Maokai, and with nothing left to defend himself, he drops incredibly fast. Nice bubble will hit Ceridon. Tricks are trying to turn and run, but the movement speed boosts are coming out from Faculty. Dissonance and heal. Shockwave won't hit Shiner, but the rockets are still coming out from Corki onto Tyrannus, and they do finally pull away.
Oh man, that Shockwave just missing out completely. Could have been enough to continue this cleanup, but Tricked got the Dragon from that. No, they didn't. The Dragon is actually being
alive,
done
and
now.
in Faculty get it. Like FAC tech call me.
Yeah, I nearly did that one earlier. It's okay. I was like, this is not a Fnatic game. But no, yeah, the Dragon goes down in favor of N Faculty at the end. There used to be N exclamation mark.
I don't know why Tricked went for that.
No, like, neither do I.
Like, Shiner was so low he couldn't be involved. They knew Shiner couldn't be involved. Yes, they got 1 for 1. But with Shiner gone 2, that's 2 people down, even if he's not dead. They went for that 3-man Dragon when they knew they were surrounded. They knew Corki was in the bottom lane because he just finished killing away the creeps off. They already saw the other 3. They were ready to defend from them. Why would you sandwich yourselves in the middle like that?
I think they perhaps just didn't read the power spike on Corki. He's got his Trinity Force, he's got his Sorcerer's Shoes, so not reading how much damage he has in a fight like that is a massive underestimation of their AD carry. Shiner, you already said, couldn't be in the fight, so you pair that difference already. Corki is into his mid-game phase, Kha'Zix is into the mid-game phase as well, and this is N Faculty's time to make plays like this and get kills potentially on Babunia, but he's just going to waddle away.
Sazus went just that little bit early. Babunia turned tail and ran just as he saw Obvious in the ward, gave it up. But we did see Obvious there evolving his wings second time around now that he's leveled 11, so he's going to start getting resets in fights that follow. And hell, a reset if he was up under that tier 2 turret might have just been enough to do the extra damage he needed onto Caitlyn. We'll see if something like that happens again. Tyrannus catches those voids back to the face and a couple of rockets after pulling the Wraith camp, but nothing too serious. As we start seeing Tricked, I don't want to say flailing around, but they do seem a little bit lost. They're not as comfortable as they were at this point in the last game.
Big chase on the top lane. Obvious is here, but so is Maweth.
And that's enough to turn them around. Obvious turns as soon as he sees it. He's now going in onto Maweth because the rest of Faculty are coming up the river. Babunia has to use the Unstoppable Force to get out. Maweth flag and drags, but Corki's looking to chase. The Shockwave goes off. It will hit Maweth, and that's 1 kill down. Shut down for Orianna. And that should be the tier 1 turret as well.
They are going to trade it, however. Bottom, they're not pushing top.
They're not. They've turned and run. They didn't have the minions enough, so they have to turn to try and defend. They lose the 1 turret in the middle lane. They're going to possibly lose the second one. The teleport is going to come in from Sazus. That's enough to scare away the rest of Tricked. But ultimately, they grab 1 kill. They should get this here. Soul's Perfect is going to stay around for it. I was going to say no objectives, but 1 kill just for then a tower trade.
Soul's Perfect's going to have to tank up a good few shots here if he wants to take it. I mean,
Orianna shield, he'll do all day long, especially with the blue buff.
But I mean, this is a lot longer than Soul's Perfect would have liked to stick around, but it has bought time in the middle wave. This is N Faculty grouping up.
Here's a misplay from Tricked. They completely left that open to that push. They do bring Tyrannus around one side. Now Jarvan's back here. Malphite is there, but he doesn't have Unstoppable Force. Charm won't land. They have split up in Faculty, but the Maweth knock-up won't hit Soul's Perfect, and they may have lost him his life. He does drop down with another free kill to Orianna.
I don't understand why Tricked are going in so fragmented here. They really need to just wait for their ultimates and use them in combination, because that is what they have. They have a team fighting composition, but right now, the Kha'Zix Orianna ball combination is too strong for them, and Faculty get it in the first fight, and now in the follow-up fight, they just have enough damage to last through Trick anyway, and now they're looking to pressure out this top inner tower, and I don't think there's too much that Trick can actually do about it without their wave clear.
They do have quite a lot of wave clear on Malphite, but he has to stand right in the middle of the whole wave, which there was okay, but in future fights, he's going to take a lot of damage every time he does that. He's not got the most magic resist up at the moment, and this Orianna is starting to get huge at 5-0-1.
Man, yeah, 5-0-1. Zhonya's Hourglass completed as well, so not only is that going to reduce the damage that Caitlyn is going to be doing, but if you can get that clutch Zhonya's, if you see the beginning of the Malphite ultimate.
Very, very early home guard boots on Corki right now, which I'm not too sure about. They're not having to turn around and rush out too quickly. They've not particularly been defending their base at all at the moment. And I feel that's gold that could have possibly been spent a little bit better. Hell, getting that Bloodthirster much faster, because he's got the BF sword alongside those home guards.
Yeah, that's possible. One reason you'd see it picked up would be in a situation where they want to put him up against Babunia, because they want to get him out of the base as fast as possible, clear the wave and back away. That would be what you'd expect from that kind of play. But they're sending Xaxus over for the 1v1 anyway. He has teleport. It makes all the sense in the world. So I agree with you. It's potentially another situation where Faculty could perhaps have been a little bit more greedy with their builds. But, you know, Home Guard, they're going to buy it at some point. It's just one of those not quite getting further ahead than you could be situations.
Playing just in case it goes for a lot longer. 25 minutes on the clock. Far shorter so far than the last game, and a lot more turrets down already for Faculty. 5 towers to 2, 9 kills to 3, and a 7,000 gold lead in their back pockets. But Malphite is still a very, very tanky member of that Tricked lineup. He's still got a pivotal ultimate, and Ari has that DFG to catch, DFG and Void Staff now, to catch the one person Malphite ultimates. That's all they need to do for Trick to really swing one of these fights around. That is still a very volatile combo, despite 7,000 gold.
7,000 gold, though, is a bigger lead than we really saw in the first game. We know that Tricked could hold a smaller lead than this, but can they survive under the siege from Faculty? We know how strong...
Definitely a better siege comp this time around. In fact, they're waiting for a trap around the corner again. Babunia goes around first, but they're doing a lot of damage to him. Will turn, but he hasn't got that moment for an unpossible force. And Sheridan is doing a lot of damage with rockets to the backside of Tricked, so they have to turn and run.
Dragon is back and alive on the map, so that is going to be our point of contention here. Faculty could be looking for some kind of setup here at this opening. They could be
have to walk right over that Orianna board to get in here. It does ping back to Orianna, and now Faculty are split. Marith goes in, doesn't get the smite, goes to Kha'Zix, but he immediately has to flash away. Marith the first man down. Tricked are looking to avenge it. Xaxus has been exhausted. 3-man shockwave, 3-man crescendo, and Tricked eSports are melting. It's an ace for Faculty at 26 minutes.
They get the Dragon as well, and that was just great layering of all of their AoE damage. Faculty with a massive team fight coming out ahead. They're going to head to Baron as well. And this is a much more comfortable game for Faculty right now.
They are far happier with this, and they are making far better decisions with it. They slightly split them up on that time round, but Tricked, while they win in, Marith went for the Dragon. The other 4 members of his team went down towards the bottom lane to try and grab the 2 players down there. Then Marith had to flash out at the top, so Tricked had to turn around and chase them as well. And in doing that, it completely ruined their positioning and set them up for that beautiful combination of Shockwave Crescendo.
Man, one thing I'm noticing from Tricked's composition, though, is we talked about how they do have a lot of teamfight presence with the Jarvan, with the Malphite, but with Malphite obviously building tanky to be a top lane contender here against Irelia, and Jarvan building tanky to be just engage and then sit around in the fight, they haven't yet shown us the follow-up damage that is required after that initial engage. They have 2 massive engage tools, but no follow-up damage in these fights.
Not impressed by Tyrudis' Ari, to be honest. Exactly as you mentioned it. She's got a couple of big damage items. If she can get to these targets, which, to be honest, is not too hard, especially in that last fight, because Faculty were so spread out and split, he just couldn't pick one and get to them. He hasn't been able to pull that off. He hasn't been able to land those charms. Hasn't been able to do that full combo, the Deathfire grasp on the right one. It's just been very, very underwhelming. And Shiner, yes, it's Caitlyn again. He did great Caitlyn in the last game. He's not anywhere near that kind of build, not anywhere near Caitlyn's critical mass yet to make an impact. So it's Tyrudus they're waiting for. Tyrudus' shoulders they're currently hoping the mid game will play out on. And he can't quite step up.
Yeah, it's going to be even more difficult for him here as we go along. There's now the shield that's going to come from the Bloodthirster as a second item from Corki. That is not something you see all that often. Typically, it's an Infinity Edge, but this upfront damage is going to give him a big spike again in this mid-game phase. But...
Ooh, Trick know they're in there. They've pinged this bush.
They have pinged it. They know they're around. But with the Mikhails on Sona, it's going to be even more difficult to pick off a champion with a charm here. And Cedrian is going to be difficult to pick off as well. This is just Faculty bubbling the tension higher and higher in this boiling pot.
Irelia is down the bottom lane, split pushing that lane in. She's got the teleport if they need her. But with the Orianna shields and the blue buff, Corki's just face tanking down this tier 2 turret with ease. It's already
gone.
And it's completely free. They've also lost the inhibitor turret in the bottom lane because Zazas was left alone for so long as well. Trick just didn't know when and what to send against him to do anything about it, and that's 2 free towers from Faculty without even having to use their siege comp. They do grab a charm onto Mountain, but this time Shiner was out of position and wasn't there to follow up Ari's burst.
This game is a lot better from Zazas. He's got a Banshee's Veil, which means Babunia can't instantly unstoppable force him in the initial engage. He has to engage and then re-engage when Zazas stays around in the lane. But it's a 1v1 with an Irelia who this late into the game has her build and is
just going to ignore Babunia
him.
to get the inhibitor. He's
down
ult. By 2 criticals of the health. What does he do even if he does ult?
Yeah,
There's no one there to help him. It's just a wasted ultimate. And Zazas gets a free inhibitor.
Oh,
we do see in the mid lane. Sol's perfect, was exposed, and Tyrudus went for him, but he lost his own life for it. Now the Caitlyn is caught out and caught down by a crescendo. Maweth was there to try and help, and he's going to fall for a double kill on Orianna. There's 3 members dead for Tricked eSports, and with 1 inhibitor down, Corki killing the next one, and the rest of the team rotating onto the bottom lane, this may just be game for Faculty. They're focusing onto 1 Nexus turret. It's going to be tanked up using Orianna shields. That's going to fall quickly, even without the AD carry, and they don't need it, because Tricked have surrendered, and we've got an even series.
Oh, that was a lot stronger out of Faculty. They fixed the issues that we highlighted at the tail end of game 1. Zazas was all around the map on that game. That was far better.
More of an impact.
That is what you expect from an LCS player in a challenger game. You expect them to bring that kind of level-headed, okay, we lost a game. I need to step up. Here's how we're going to do it.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, just the champions seem to fit it a lot better there too. He tried to do a similar thing with Cassidy in the last game. We saw him split pushing a little bit towards the end. We saw him waiting and using that teleport and trying to just ignore Babunia's Maokai and just keep pushing it up and keep getting onto towers. But the Maokai was far better against him. The Maokai did a lot more and stopped the casting.